Hey everybody, I'm here to talk to you about Shadowdark and why you should buy it. I mean, besides the fact that I'm telling you to, and that's the best reason, I think it's your replacement for 5e. Let's dive into it, let's break it down, all the nitty gritty that you need to start your first game in Shadowdark, and a little bit of a 15-minute review of the book. Maybe more. We'll see how this goes. So, Shadowdark is come from the brains over at the Arcane Library, specifically Kelsey. They grew up playing tabletop over in Lake Geneva, the ex-mecca of gaming, and then over the course of their time, they've been running games, playing games, and when the OGL debacle happened, they decided it was time to build and put out Shadowdark. The Kickstarter crushed. I think it did over 1.3 million. If memory serves, you can correct me and comment down below like you do. And this here is the collector's edition cover for the book. There is a non-collector's edition version, and they're right now, at the time of this recording, reprinting, and I'm pretty sure, according to their Discord, you're going to see some of this stuff at Gen Con 2024. If you're watching this in the way future, welcome. There's still, shit for you to learn. So let's talk about the book as a whole. This is a 5e styled book, but not the same as you know. I like to say it's a parallel, rules light to start, with easy structure to build top of. Well, why do I say that? First off, there's no skills in this game. This is a stat-based game with talents from classes, with magical items to give you some extra flavor, and a lot of open space for you and your table to build what you want your game to feel like. So much so, Kelsey says there's no setting for Shadowdark. That setting is for you and your players and other publishers to make. I mean, maybe in the future we'll see something from them, but honestly, with the amount of work that is in this ginormous book, it is 332 pages, but really only like 25 to 30 of them are actual rules for you to do, and most of that is making a class and putting your character together. And you'll see as we dig into this how clean and how simple this book is to use. I want to point out the most important thing to me. This book immediately gives you front and back page information that you can easily use while you're in the middle of a game, or print these, or honestly, if you want, I'm going to lean over here for you, and you can just pick up their GM screen. This is something that is on sale on their site, and you can easily get a hold of this as well. I'm going to show you the inside first with your GM screen, and then if we flip it around, your lovely art that you get on the outside. And here, let me make this widescreen. You can see it all. And it's very simple to use at your table. These are all A5, if you're familiar with A5 stuff. And I think A5 is that great size for travel, for running games, for doing all the things that you want. And all of their publications are also like that. Everything is at A5 format, from 12 pre-generated characters, to maps and adventures for you, to monsters. And then they have 3 cursed scrolls out now that have extra class. Some have ancestries, lots of extra gear. Each one has an adventure, and they all have wonderful tables on the back for you to use. Now, this is looking at the physical product. Today, we're going to use the PDF for everything, because while I have these 2 beastly books, it's going to be easier for me to showcase them the other way. If you're wondering what the difference between the collector's edition is from the Kickstarter, if you find one, someone's reselling it, or maybe at Gen Con you get lucky and they bring extras, a little bit nicer paper, embossed cover, both front and back. And this one, still just as thick, has all the same content in it. Nothing's changed. Same on the front, their iconic monster as well. And you can pick these up. Coming up pretty soon. You can get the PDF now, of course. So you got these lovely 2 tables that I was talking about in the front of this book. And they allow you to do whatever you need looking at these. And they kind of give you all of the rules for how difficulty classes work, the 9, 12, 15, and 18. Notice these are nice static numbers. If you're familiar with things like Mork Borg, or even Shadow of the Demon Lord, or Weird Wizard to a certain extent, any of those kind of styled games, you'll notice that target numbers have become more static without sliding scale. And it makes it easier to run, and it makes it easier to teach, and it sure as shit makes it easier for players to understand. So those are your DCs. There's morale in this game. Monsters will run from you. There's distance and movement. They went with zones, but still gave you measurement in case you're in a dungeon square-based combat. I say dungeon, But I don't mean everything has to be a dungeon. Even in a city fight in an alley, you may be using squares. So I should say encounter area, but dungeons, what everyone knows when using squares. They talk about how to use them. They break down dying and spell focus right on your first pages. And I'm going to scroll quickly to the back of the book because there is extra stuff at the back. You'll notice you have NPC names, how XP works for treasure. Don't balk at it. Don't balk at it. I promise you. XP for treasure works really well. And I will dive a little more into that during these couple of minutes I'm going to talk. And then they have random encounters for you to quickly get through what you're doing in your game. So with that said, I do want to dive into the book a little bit and scroll us past these tables. Credit is given where credit is due for art, even the page numbers. I would like to point out they went the extra mile, and every single one of these are hyperlinked for the art, for Lucas and for the other people that are making and brandishing, doing the trade dress and all that kind of stuff as well. They're all hyperlinked so that the credit is given where it should be. Thank you for the attention to detail to the Arcane Library crew that put this together. All table of contents are hyperlinked in the PDF. I mean, everything is. Like, I don't think anything I've clicked on in this book wasn't. And it allows for something amazing when you're trying to find things in this book. So I'm going to quickly pan through. The art in this book is all black and white, gorgeous. I like to say upgraded kind of second edition style, but there is some old school pieces that feel a lot like second edition, almost exactly like second edition, to be 100% honest. There's a good introduction. There's a breakdown for how it works. They teach you how to play Shadowdark. And I have to say, if you are a 5e person, you've played a lot of D&D or really any other 5e game, if you grew up in OSR or play OSR now, some of this is going to make a lot of sense to you. People fear the word OSR because they think it comes with grognards and jerks and things like that. That's not true. OSR is a style of play, and it is one that I think should be presented to your table a few times and maybe even mingled into how you tell stories at your table. I think you'll be surprised what it can do for you and your party, your table of players. But specifically, this page tells you what Shadowdark is and what defines the game. They go into the basics immediately, and you'll start to notice as you go through these 300 plus pages that everything is a page or a 2-page spread so that you can understand that information fast. All right? And we're going to go through this quick. If you want to see the longer version, I did a live stream that this is cut from. That's over 2 hours. There'll be a link below, up above, at the end of the video. And if you want the full thing where I'm talking with the audience, go check that out as well. But enough about that. They break down everything you need in the first couple pages, from dice to stat to hit points, what you should do next, more gorgeous art, how characters are made. Very simple one page. This is what's involved in your character. Then giving you that second page of AC and attacks. I highlighted some things in this during the live show. Talents are what you randomly roll under your class every, I believe, odd level to make you better or more unique. And you'll see that as we go through the 4 classes that are in here. And I gotta say, don't worry. There are more than 4 classes out there. Between third-party publishers and honestly, the Cursed Scrolls, there is a ton of them. And stay with me to the end of the video. And I'm going to show you something that will, if nothing else, make you try this game out of the gate. You can go download the free trial version of this game on the Arcane Library's website, which is down below. And then there's a website that will make all of this even easier for you. My live show hasn't even seen it yet. So as you go through talents and roll them, we talk about spell, we talk about gear. I will tell you equipment is important. You only get so many gear slots in this game. You get either 10 or your strength score, whichever one is higher. So if you have a strength of 8, because you can have that in this game because it's 3d6 stat rolls, you take 10 instead. But there are some class talents and abilities that let you have more. You'll see that when we get to the fighter. They do have 0 level work. If you want to play a 0 level game and grind through and do a grinder, if you're familiar with those. If not, there's a whole area on it in this book on how to run them. You get the beginner's luck, so everything works for you. Whoever survives that, you play your first level characters. It's a great way to get introduced to, I think, almost any game, but they call it out in here. They break down your stats. You will notice that 18 is the highest. If you're rolling stats and you don't get a 14, there's an optional reroll. But what you will not see is skills, because everything is based on the statistics in this game. Ancestries are short, concise, sweet, and elegant. There are no stat bonuses, okay? Every ancestry has some description of who they are, the languages that they know, because languages are important in this game, and then they have an ability that makes them special. I myself, for my game, have expanded upon this, and I've given some extra options for your starting ancestries, so you can pick more than one thing, just because I wanted some flavor for my setting. You could do that too. Look how easy it would be to write a one-sentence description. You're not arguing semantics. You're here to have fun when you play Shadowdark. That's been my impression so far in the 40-plus games that I've ran. First class. Let's talk about fighter. It's in every game. I don't care what you call it. Warrior, fighter, sword and board. They're in every game. In this, all classes have a short description. They tell you what weapons you can use. You'll notice that fighter gets all. And the same for armor and shields. They have high hit points at a D8. D8 hit points plus your con for first level, your con bonus. After that, it's only dice, everybody. There's no bonus after that. You have some special abilities, 3 specifically for the fighter, from Hauler, which you get to add your Constitution modifier to how many pieces of gear you can carry. Weapon Mastery, where you choose a weapon and you get a bonus to attack and damage. And that's big in this game, because you don't add strength and dex modifiers to your damage. It's just a die roll. That's it. So a fighter becomes very powerful when they get those bonuses. And you may worry, how does that help me with strength and stuff? Don't worry, you still hit better, you have a better chance to hit, it's more frequent, hit points are lower in this game overall across the board. And I mean, we were just looking at Mariliths, and I think they had like 43 hit points. They're level 9, and they will mess a party up. But 43 hit points is low in 5th edition. You also have Grit, which you choose strength or dex, what kind of fighter are you? And you'll notice this table. At your 1st, 3rd, 6th, 9th level, you're going to roll 2d6 and you get new talents. And every class works this way. The core ones in this book are 2 to 12, but things in Cursed Scrolls like the Assassin, I can't remember the exact name. I think it has a D12 or a D20 table for abilities. It's wild. And it's not made to be balanced. It's made to be fun. It's about getting back to fun in the game, not arguing over rules because nobody read them on the player side of the table and no one remembers them. If you're a GM, you know what I'm talking about. As we go through these, they all have their own art. You have Priest. And this, I'm not going to go through every class, but I will talk about spell casting and Turn Undead, because they are core to a lot of the games we know. Turn Undead is amazing. This is a spell in the game. And when you have Turn Undead, hyperlinked by the way, it takes me to Turn Undead, Tier 1, which is the spell. Priest, duration is instant. Near means within a certain distance from you. Close is next to you. Near is the next step out. There is measurements for it in the game. But you rebuke undead creatures, forcing them to flee. You must present a holy symbol to cast this spell. Now that would be, in my eyes, what like an OSR game would do. But this one kind of levels up a lot of their design. They've saw what Pathfinder 2e has done by being able to spend more actions to cast better spells. We've seen being able to use meta magics in 3.0 and 3.5. And in this one, it's based on something a little different. Undead creatures within near of you must make a charisma check versus your spellcasting check. We'll get into that in a minute. If the creature fails by 10 points and is equal to or less than your level, it's dead. It's destroyed. Poof, dust, blade, burning steel wool, because that's how they did that in that movie. And then if it's by 5 or they failed, but they didn't fail by 10, they just flee for 5 rounds. And if they succeeded, they're still in front of you and probably beating the ever-living shit out of you in the dark. With that said, spell casting is very easy in this game, but it's different. It's not Vancian. You're not memorizing spells. The spells that you know as a priest or the spells that you know as a wizard, you can cast them repeatedly. And the way that you cast them repeatedly is you make a spell casting roll. DC 10 plus the tier of the spell. You use your stat modifier for your class plus any talents you may get. You'll notice looking down at the priest table here, there are some benefits to casting spells. You can get a specific spell that you're really good at where you get advantage. We're all familiar with advantage, where you're rolling 2, really upping your chance to be able to cast that spell. And wizards get something very similar. And when you're casting scrolls, you roll to cast scrolls. And if they're higher tier, that becomes more difficult. If it's a tier 5, it's a DC 15. If you only have a +2 and maybe you gained a +1 in there, +3 makes a 15 difficult to cast. You may fail. And I want to point out, there are mishap tables in here based on the tiers of the spells for both wizard and priest. And all supplemental material, they have their own mishap tables as well. So as you go through, you got your known, your thief class. By the way, they get half their level in the weapons die as extra damage if they surprise somebody, if the creature's unaware of them. They get club, crossbow, dagger, short bow, and short sword. But if you have a cool background, which is coming up, your GM might give you something else, like maybe you're a nomad and you know how to use bastard swords, making your rogue or thief feel different than anyone else's. Talents, again, they specialize in thievery. You get the point. Wizard, again, same thing. No armor, only 2 weapons, making their spells very important. They can learn new ones by spending a day with a scroll and making a roll. Means you can cast some pretty powerful things at low levels if you're willing to risk it. You get into the wizard spells. You have their talents. Backgrounds. This is the closest thing to skills. You can random roll all this. We'll click through some tables as we go through. But these allow you to be really good at certain things and give you advantage. If it makes sense that you're an urchin and you want to pick pockets off of a guard at a door, that might make sense because you grew up doing it. Or maybe you know where to gain information about the underbelly of the city. Or a scholar knows where to buy the right books in a town. This stuff makes, I think, for a better background than what you get in 5e. And I am comparing. And I know a lot of people who do reviews are saying, I don't want to compare these. I am comparing it. Because to me, my thing that I think is the weakest part of 5e is the backgrounds, the bonds, ideals, and flaws. I don't think they were used well enough. And I think this is a more elegant representation of that. You can argue with me in the comments. I may delete them because it's my channel. But hey, man, if it's good, we can have a good conversation. You know what I'm saying. Don't be a dick. Wheaton's Law. Alignment, there's only 3. Deities, they're fun and succinct. And there's a couple pages of them. Titles to make that fighter, that priest, that wizard, that thief feel different based on your alignment, to give sparked ideas for your players you're making them. Languages and what's uncommon. I didn't know what Thanian was, and it's Minotaurs, Beastmen, and Manticores. Oh my. Yeah, I made that joke. Amir would be proud. Starting gear, AC, all that kind of stuff in this section. This is the heart of the game. You can only carry so much gear with those slots. And this is 0 leveling starting gear if you want to play that 0 level game. AC is 10 plus your dexterity modifier. Unless you're wearing armor, that changes it like every game. Quick, light, easy to understand pieces of gear and how they function. Basic gear, a whole list. I will highlight one thing. You'll notice that things that are like multiples, arrows, bolts, things like that, it'll give you a number, and that's basically 1 to 20 takes a gear slot no matter what. If you have 40, that's 2 gear slots. Crawler kit, it's kind of like that. You should have this. If you don't, you will die. I'm just saying. And then in armor, you'll see some are 13 plus dex mod, while other ones just give an AC, and you no longer get the dex mod. There are properties to make things feel different, and that is in obviously armor and in weapons. And in some of the third-party publishing, people have really kind of expanded upon this. Even the Cursed Scrolls, there's a shield that has Sundering, and if you take a hit and you want to give up your shield and let it break, it takes the damage as well, just to show you kind of how rules expand in this. All the properties are listed below, and then we get into, hey, here's your character names. This is how you advance your level. Notice that the levels are multiples of 10. I think this is kind of genius and keeps it simple. They reset the 0 every time. They talk about your talent rolls and everything on one page. If you are teaching this game, print this and hand it out when they level. Everyone will figure out what to do. Random characters, in case you want to do all in random, you're playing in a convention, you want a one shot, you want to teach the game, roll, 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 you're good to go. And I mean, it does all of it, as you can see. One of my favorite pieces. Is that a bonfire in his hand? I'm just curious. Like, is that a bonfire? Is he a giant? Kelsey, if you're watching this right now, is that a giant with a bonfire? Or is he burning a bird's nest for a spell? I want to know what this guy is doing. Magic, how you cast for both wizard and priest, how results work, critical success and failure. On a 20, look, on a 20, you get to double a numerical value of a spell. And if it's a focus spell, this remains in effect for a focus. And focus spells, you roll each round to keep them going in this game. There's some really cool dungeon crawl rules, like the torch timer in this game. Wait till you see this. It's not revolutionary. I think we've all done it as GMs, but she's found a way to add the best parts of board games to help you quantify moments in your game and make them work well. And they set expectations for your players. Like, for example, when you're looking at spells, if you have penance, there's a sacrifice value. If you have mishaps, there are mishap tables for both wizard and priest. They teach you how to use wands and scrolls in one page. Honestly, you can't forget it. It's a 10 plus the tier of the item. It's not rocket science. NASA ain't calling. Maybe Elon is. I don't know. Spell attributes, super clean. They break it all down. Your priest spells. Also, every spell is hyperlinked. And if there's a page number within that, that will be hyperlinked as well to make going through this easier. Of course, we have all of our spells, and this goes long. Like, I'm going to fast click this to get through this so you can see how quickly that goes. A new piece of art. And then they break down adventuring, what rolling dice is. And while this stuff sounds mundane to people who play all the time, I think to new players, new GMs, or people who want to see how this game is played, these pages are so easy to read. You can read advantage, disadvantage, and the idea of canceling a natural ones easily. And if you ever have to have a decider in this game, right here. And I think this comes from the hazard stuff. Knave talks about it, but it's a D6. Just use a D6. Just make a decision. There's luck in this game. I use something called breacher tokens. There's also a dark dice as well that's out there. Using your stats, what the kind of challenges or tasks you would have under each. This should be on your GM screen at all times. Honestly, giving it to a player should be good. How you make checks. Time. Real time is a thing in this game. 1 minute or hour of the game time is equal to 1 minute or hour of real time. This changes the way you run a dungeon. It changes the pacing of time. If someone asks you what time it is outside, if you say you started at 2 in the afternoon in the game and an hour has passed in real life, it's 3. If 2 hours have passed, it's 4. Another one passed, it's 5. If you want to fast forward a day and then start the timer again. But it really does help with keeping track of things. I like it a lot more than I thought I would. And I never realized how much I used it anyway. And if you are a fan of Critical Role, he always says roll for initiative. In Shadowdark, you start the game that way because you use the initiative to make sure you're touching base with all your players. And they talk about freeform mode. You don't have to use it all the time, but I feel having that keeps a GM reminder to touch base with your more quiet players or to take the spotlight off the spotlight hogs like myself. Look, I know who I am. And they talk about your player turns, your GM turns, how crawling works. And they just keep teaching you over and over in one-page pieces. They give you overlay and travel and how to handle hex crawl. They even have downtime in here. Carousing. Whew, so fun. When you leave a dungeon and you have money, you spend that money in a city, roll on carousing table to gain more experience and have crazy things happen. I mean, how awesome is it if you roll and you spend, let's say, 100 gold, you get a +1, you roll a 6, that's a 7, and a 7 is you lied to an entire tavern in a wildly insulting song about disliking a noble in the city. We all know what tomorrow's adventure is going to be, but you still gain 4 experience for doing it It's just a cool way to do it, and the entire party's involved. I think this is a great way to spend downtime, and I didn't even talk about this in my full stream. Wizards and Thieves, it's a game you can play. Yep, just added a game into it. I didn't even talk about this stuff. There's examples of play, teaches you how the game goes on average. Great art again. And then the game mastering section. If you take nothing away from this 15-minute or 20-minute piece that I'm doing, game master section in this game, this here, your role, your player's role is paramount. If you open the book, read this. Read page 102 and page 103. Read these 2 pages and get back to me. Because I think just like the Knave book that we just reviewed, this really kind of impacts the way you play stuff. If you didn't see the Knave, watch that afterwards. Of course, core ethos. It talks about how building a table and trust is important. On balance and how choices should matter. Don't go back on choices that players make, or killing a player for that matter, and why those matter. How running the game works, how setting DCs work, character skill versus player skill. Basically saying if your players are smart enough to know something, reward them for it. There's nothing wrong with your players knowing stuff and bringing it to the table. It means they're enjoying the fucking hobby. That's what that means. Instead of looking at it as metagaming, just ask them very simply, oh, you know about this. How does your player character know? I would love to know this story. And if it's because they were hiding in a beholder's lair or the 10-eyed monstrosity in this game, and they escaped, that's a story that leads to something that you didn't think of as a GM. Ask your players. You're not the enemy. How to set tone. And then let there be darkness. Player characters don't get dark vision in this game. Light matters. Torches last an hour. Dropping them makes them go out. Lanterns break. Monsters try to put them out. There's mishaps based on adventures. Tons of things that make light valuable and also mean your players aren't staying in dungeons forever. There's different modes of play, from blitz mode, making things 30 minutes instead of an hour. Chaos mode, which is reroll initiative instead of heaping static initiative every round. I mean, it just goes on, but in one page of fun things you can do. Random encounters. How often? I know, look, I know our 5e people think random encounters, and honestly, just players and GMs in general think random encounters are random and they're bad. And you're right. Old random encounters suck shit. But when you have new encounters that teach you to look at the distance, are they friendly? How often does it happen? And really, remember, your players are against the torch clock or against time. When you're rolling a d6 every time, and on a 1 every 3 rounds, you make a check. If it's a 1, great. A random encounter happens. It's set for the story, not just a badger that's in the area. Don't do that unless you're maybe doing overland travel. But you can roll, and I did it on the show live, and it was 4 times that I rolled 12 rounds before I got a 1, setting up what was going on, giving players time to look around. And what this does is give you pacing. It makes you remember and gives you a mechanic to create pacing in your game. Try it for a couple sessions. I'm telling you, it will make you a better GM in how you do pacing, and you also won't do the same thing every single time at the table. We're running out of time. We're going to go through this quick. There's a lot of tables in this game. Traps have tables. Hazards have tables. Gauntlet is its own game mode. We have awarding XP. Very important in this game. XP is gold, boons, magical items, clever thinking. There is a monster mode called Hunt where they're worth half their level in XP. But gold is XP in this game. And you may be telling yourself, I don't want to track that. It's not hard. It really isn't. There's an entire table at the bottom for you to understand how it works. Poor quality. You don't give them anything. Normal. Give 1 XP to everyone in the party. To go to second level, it's 20 XP. That's not hard. It's pretty easy. And these give you really good guidelines on what a normal, fabulous, and legendary item is worth. We talked on the show about 500 gold. That's a hoard. That's a legendary item. Maybe that's worth 10 XP. And now the entire course of the campaign changes as they get all this money, go up a level, have gear. It's something awesome. And speaking of something, There's entire something happen tables. 100, day 100 table, rumors, adventures, build your own adventure, build your own site, build NPCs, qualities, rival crawlers. You ain't the only adventurers. Everything has a table in the game. They even teach you how to roll for maps, doing the drop method with dice. Kelsey has a whole video on doing this. You could make an entire adventure sitting on the shitter if you got good balance with your dice. Maybe use a phone. Overland travel. I'm going to keep clicking because there's so many tables to help you be a better GM. And this is the fast one. I'm going to put something out for this later, but I'm going to try to do this like I did last time. So let me take a drink here. I feel like I've been talking. All right, here's our random encounter idea tables. I feel like a rap artist. Arctic encounters, Art District encounters, Castle Districts, Caves, Deep Tunnels, Deserts, Forest, Grassland, High District, Jungle, Low District, Markets, Mountain, Ocean, River and Coast, Ruins, was it Slums, Swamps, Taverns, Temple District, Tombs, University District, and then the big bad. Those tables are enough for you to run this game forever if you're combining things. And I think that this is the stuff that has been missing from a lot of games. And I love that these new publishers are bringing old school mechanics to the forefront and giving you a way to be successful. And this isn't even including how easy it is to make a monster. They give you generators. They even tell you how to make it weird. And then designing monsters in the breakdown. And this is one of the only things from 4th edition that was solid. This has mooks, soldiers, strikers, tanks, controllers, and legendary, telling you roughly how to build a monster. They even have a breakdown on stat modifiers, what the attack bonus should be, how damage should work within level gambits. It's simple, but elegantly genius. And I always go to this one that an aboleth is that much of a stat block. That means that when you sit down on an aboleth, while your party's explaining what you're doing, you hold the book in front of you and read the thing, and you have an aboleth. And if you want to modify it, modify it. And the stat blocks are super clean and super simple. Everything is on the first row. You know their AC, their hit points, and attacks. They break down how many and what it does. They tell you if they have anything they're really good at. They give you their stats, and then immediately their level and some abilities. And monsters go on forever. And I'm going to click through here because when you get to broad categories like devils, they give you a good breakdown, and then they break down the devils. And as we go through here, you're going to see a couple full page spreads. Full page spreads are like the big legendary monsters that make you badass. Like this mummy, for example. This is an entire page dedicated to this one. That's the largest monster stat blocks. One page. But they're clean. They're awesome. And they make you feel like you can run a game without spending hours of prep. And I love that about this. And I love that they leave you gaps to really build your own thing and have fun with. That Tarrasque has a waterfall coming out of its mouth. I'm just saying, this here, that is a waterfall. I don't care what you tell me. River rapids out of a Tarrasque mouth for your adventure? Let's go. I think that sounds like a great time. Obviously, you have other things that are in here you could look through. And then we get into treasure. They break down not only what it feels like to be looking for it, how treasure overview works, but they give you tables based on the level that are fun and they make sense. They're easy to build off of. And now that gold matters, treasures like a giant egg shaped like an emerald matters. And if you tell them it takes 3 slots, they're going to dump gear and find a way to get that egg out of the dungeon. You didn't tell them that it was going to, birth a swamp dragon in the middle of the city, but hey man, adventure idea. Mundane items, luxuries, boons from gods. We joked about this being a werecorn. I still want art for that. There's secrets, blessings, magical item attributes, personalities, and the list just goes on through tables for everything you could need. It's absolutely insane to me what you get out of this book. Magical items are fun. There's very few things that just give you a +1. They all have flavor. And on top of that flavor, they have curses, like Armor of the Oni. You have disadvantage on attacks and spellcasting checks against demons because it's made from them. You know, common sense stuff. And if this is something that you think you've been looking for, or maybe you just want to try it out, maybe that's what you're looking for, a tryout for this. The character sheets are simple. They have an entire community that you can join. And of course, credits all the way down to the fonts. But everybody, I didn't do this during the show. I have something special to show you. If you want to play this game, there's a free download on their website. You can go over to the Arcane Library. There's links below. You can get yourself the newest thing that has come out. If you want to find yourself a lovely new book, you could pick up your PDF. There's a free version in here that's like the rules light, but that's not the secret. This is the secret. Shadowdark allows you to make, I think it's 40 characters with just a simple login and no paying. As a matter of fact, I will do it right now to end the show. On this, you can click all your sources. You can even include a few third parties that are out. I won't do that for the sake of what's going on, but I will include all the cursed scrolls. You can even say how you want it to be. I want it to be a design. I want it to be random. I want it to be random 0. Well, random 1 is what we're going to do. You have best fit, mixed, and fully random, which means they don't look at the stats and what you should be. They just say, too bad, so sad, you're an assassin with a 3 dexterity. We're not going to do that. We're going to do best fit. Now, I'm going to generate a character. You ready? Okay, I'm done. I'm named Human Priest. Pretty easy. I'm going to enable edit able mode. I'm going to edit it so I can change things. I can change my background if I wanted to go through and change it. I can change my stats if my house gave me stats to use, like my GM did, or I rolled my own. They tell you what your ancestry does. You can change it. But let's say I don't want to play a human. I played a human last time. Random. Cool. Looks like I'm a halfling. And then your priest is here with all their stats, their spell table. Your priest spell book tells you what you have. This is what's available in all your levels, all the spells. They tell you what your languages are. Everything is here. Not only that, when you pick weapons, it shows you your weapons. But if your GM said, no, you know what, you worship a god that lets you use a bastard sword, you can come here, or a great sword, and you can look at the great sword and add things to what you want. And it does it for every one of those. It does it for level advancement. It has other features, which are like your gods and your alignment and everything you could want. And then when you're done, you can save the character to the site, and it is here for you. You can see all these other ones I've built. If we go back into this one, you can even pick the style of PDF export you want, or a JSON file. Now you tell me that this isn't going to give you a great experience at the table. I'm going to not only call you a liar, you owe me a shot for all the hyperlinks that I've said. And you probably should watch more videos. Maybe you'll find another game that you'll enjoy. Up in the corners is going to be probably the Knave or the Dragon Age thing to watch. And on this side, there's going to be a lovely circle that you're supposed to click to follow the channel and turn the bell on for everything. I put out 3 videos a link, live shows primarily, and all these little pieces you see at the end of these live shows get cut down into more bite-sized morsels for you. I do want to leave you with one piece of advice. If you're going to play this game and go into it, give it 2 or 3 sessions, have fun, play some levels, but most of all, remember that the table is your own, and you're here to learn about a new system and a new style of play. Don't bring your baggage in until you know the system, and if maybe your baggage is really things that you love. That's my advice to you. Have a great day, everybody. At the end of this, I hope you guys enjoy it. I'm making an entire setting about it. Have a good one, everyone.